Hi all. Today we're going to install an existing cloud app locally, and we'll be able to develop it in our local environment. So I want to do this for two reasons. Either I want to install an existing app locally and play with it and learn from it, or I could take an existing app, install it locally, make some changes to it, and then contribute those changes back to the GitHub repository. So in order to get started with this, let's go ahead and open up the developers network. Let's click on Cloud Apps, go down to the Getting Started guide, and there's a section here on starting with an existing app. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And we're going to be working with the Cloud App Tutorials app. So the Cloud App Tutorials is a great app that shows us a bunch of the features and functionality of the Cloud App framework. You see there's a whole bunch of articles that walk through exactly how to do all sorts of different use cases with Cloud Apps. So this is very helpful. And by installing the Cloud App tutorial locally, we can make changes to it, we can play with it, we can learn from it. So let's go and open up this repository on GitHub. And from here, let's grab the clone URL. And then let's go over to our command line. And let's go ahead and do a git clone of that URL. And then we'll cd into that directory. And then we're going to use the ECA, which is the Ex Libris Cloud App command line interface. We installed that in the previous video where we learned how to get started with Cloud Apps. And an ECA init, and that's the same command that we use to initialize a new application, only this time the CLI recognizes that we're an existing app and asks if we want to reconfigure it. So let's say yes, and let's put in our environment URL. This is going to be for my sandbox environment. And let's use the default port here, which is fine. And then we're going to run ECA start. And what ECA start does is it does an npm install to install all the dependencies for the Cloud App, and it starts up that local development environment for us to use. And while that's running, let's go into a different tab and do code, which is Visual Studio Code. You can use any editor for Cloud Apps. I like VS Code. And we'll see here the standard interface for Cloud Apps, including a manifest file, this config.json, which includes the configuration that we just put in using the command line tool. And inside of our Cloud Apps directory, we have source and app. And you see all of the different components that are a part of the Cloud App Tutorials app. So there's things here about translating, about working with XML, about theming, using the store, the settings, configuration services. So all of that is here in the Cloud App tutorial. And then as soon as the Cloud App opens, we'll go in and we'll log in to our sandbox environment. Let's do that now. And once that opens up, we'll have our sandbox Alma environment working in our local development environment so that we can develop this, this Cloud App locally. So here we have our Alma, we're logging into our Alma instance. And our Alma is opening up, and as that's happening, we'll see here the Cloud App Center. And I can click on that, and then I have the Cloud App Tutorials. Always the first app that appears in that list is the one that we're developing locally. I can click on that, and we see that I've brought up the Cloud App Tutorials app with links to all the different demos. And if I hop back over into my VS Code, and I go into that main component, I can just make a small change here to show that we are indeed working locally. I'll save that. Once I save that, we get a refresh here in the browser, and we see that I am indeed working locally. So now I can make changes to this app, I can explore, I can learn, and if I wanted to actually contribute my changes back to GitHub, I could use the standard GitHub flows of making a branch or doing a pull request in order to contribute back to existing applications. So that's how you install an existing app locally and then work on it in your local environment. Enjoy.